2 minutes to address it. We'll begin this time with Coleman, and the first question is, District 4 has a very broad demographic. All parts of the district have been negatively impacted by the economic downturn. Foreclosures and bankruptcies are evident all around us. What services would you support cutting as revenues shrink? And what services do you feel must remain or grow for the city of Fort Lauderdale to maintain resident quality of life?
Good question. In a sense, it's somewhat of a false dichotomy. But let's start with the first. The first job, the most important job of the Fort Lauderdale city government is this gentleman in the back of the room. It's public safety. Nothing is more important. If we're not safe in our workplaces, in our homes, on our streets, nothing else matters. So I hate to prioritize these kind of things, but some things are more important than others, and we must spend the money that we have to spend in order to keep everyone in this room and all of our citizens safe. That's got to be our first priority, police and fire. To some extent, the rest of the question assumes that, you know, we have this fixed budget and we're going to lop off the bottom 20% because Lori Parrish told us that values are falling 20%. And so if you're unlucky enough to be at the back of the line, you're going to lose. But the reality of it is our city government's not terribly efficient. I don't think there's anybody in this room that hasn't had a bad experience with the city government. And it's not the fault of the staff, it's the fault of the management. We operate our city in much the same way that we did 50 years ago. It's still run like a small town. And when we sit here in Broward County with examples like Coral Springs, a city that has been recognized around the world as having efficient management, and you look at that, and it doesn't just give you better customer service, it gives you lower taxes. Their millage rate is lower than ours, and they don't have the benefit of big, beautiful hotels and towering office buildings. So they're doing something right. So when we cut the budget next year, which we're going to no doubt have to do, which is going to be forced upon us, the other thing that we need to do, which is just as hard, is we figure out how do we run it more efficiently? How do we incentivize people? How do we improve customer service? Because if we can do that, we'll go a long way towards preserving as many of these critical services as we can.
Well, we all know that we're in for some tough times with the budget. And I feel like because of my business background, I have a business degree, I sat on a bank board for 20 years, I understand finance, that I can lend a lot to that issue, to those issues concerning the budgetary process. And certainly the priority of the city fathers, though, is public safety, water, garbage. We all need that, and we all have to make sure that those essential services are always provided. And I think knowing that bottom line, you have to go into any budget year knowing that there are essential services that have to be provided. As far as cutting, I think you have to start with the obvious again too, and that would be new projects. There's always a set of new projects that are on the plate of any city commission. And although we would love to do a lot of that, and quite frankly, I think we're going to have a great opportunity to vision a little bit because we have somewhat of a lull, and we have a downturn here that's going to give us a chance to breathe a little bit. We've had all this pressure to build, because the economy and the real estate market was churning so quickly, and now that that's settled down a little bit, we take a big breath, and we can decide what we're going to do in the future. Where do we want to build? Where don't we want to build? So my approach is always what I feel is a balanced one, but I know my priorities. I know we have to provide essential services. And then when it comes to where do we put a scalpel, then not only would I try to look at more efficiencies in the government and where we can find them, because I know there are some, but we might have to look at some new projects. Thank
you. Well, I'm not Chicken Little. I'm not going to tell you the sky is falling. The sky might be somewhat gray, but it doesn't mean it's insurmountable. We can get through this struggle in the same way we've gone through other cycles, and I have no doubt about that. There's no question that our first responders have to be number one. Our police, our fire, and our paramedics have to be respected and given parity with other cities. I do not like to see some of our ranking people, I'm talking about sergeants, lieutenants, and captains, leaving our department to go to such places as Miami Gardens, leaving us with a bunch of new people, which they're good people, I'm not saying they aren't, but we don't have the depth in the field, like a football team without depth. We don't have the depth in the field that we need. When these supervisory kind of people are gone, these newer people are left to flounder. Frankly, in some cases, they don't even know the geography yet of some of the areas that they serve, whereas the older fellas and girls knew what was going on. So, I mean, this is critically important. As far as what comes off the budget and what goes on the budget, I would have to say that as far as I'm concerned, everything has to be examined. All the personnel, all the departments, all the projects. As far as I'm concerned, everything is on the table and subject to discussion and the knife if that's necessary. But I want to be certain that we respect our first responders for the job that they do. And if we have the opportunity, you and I, right here, to stop and see a cop at a convenience store or a coffee shop, say, hey, listen, I appreciate the job you're doing, that'll go a long way towards morale. I've managed people for a lot of years, and I know that you have to compensate them right, but you also have to appreciate what they're doing. That's almost as important as money sometimes. Jack McKinsey is leading to tell you that. Okay, thank you.
When it comes to cutting government services in the city of Fort Lauderdale, I think we have to look at the top. I don't know how many exactly assistant city managers we have now, making $100 or close to $200,000 if you start throwing in all the benefits. But there's too many of them. And Fort Lauderdale, I think, because things have been good, our property values, we got used to having top-heavy management. A lot of people who tell people what to do, and not enough people who actually do what it is that needs to be done.
Assistant to 121 start, assistant to 121 start.
I value very much the employees of our city. A lot of them are hardworking folks. You know, the guys that come and fix the sewers when they break. You know, you go out and you talk to them. These folks are really working for us. Obviously, we have to protect public service for police and fire. But folks, these city unions have to work with us. We can't just fund retirements and benefits when we don't have them. I want to add police officers. I don't want to waste money. What we've got to do is concentrate on what is important. It's important for us to have a safe city in order for us to be prosperous. We want businesses and people to move back here. And we want people with money to be back here because I do believe in the trickle-down theory. The more wealth that comes to a community, the more jobs, businesses, and home values there are for all of us. What's going to happen? What can we cut? You know, you can say, well, we're going to put all of our money in fire and safety, and we're going to cut parks and recreation. That's wrong, too. Okay? You need more cops when you don't have activities for youth to do, because when they don't have those activities, they're going to go out and commit more crimes. So we need more cops, but we also need those parks and those services that folks don't get into trouble to begin with. And I think what we've got to use our resources, we've got to help small businesses as best as we can, whether it's small business loans or helping folks with zoning problems, whatever it is, so that these small businesses can get back on their feet and call Fort Lauderdale home.